Appalachia is the most mysterious region in the United States, and is easily one of the most unsettling places in the world. When you think about creepy woods, many Americans will conjure up an image similar to the Appalachian Mountains, and I'm here to tell you that their instincts are spot on. What I'm about to show you is the most disturbing Appalachian story I've ever read. This story is titled The Hanging Tree. It is from a user named Warm Cardigan. When I first read it, it gave me that feeling I got after watching The Grudge for the first time, that I wasn't alone and that what was there with me was going to drag me away into the darkness. And after you hear this, you may feel that too, along with the sensation of profound loneliness. Some of the names of people and locations in this story have been changed to protect identities. This happened in the fall of 1998. I was 13, in 8th grade. I lived in a small town in eastern Kentucky called Harlan. The typical small town where everyone is acquainted, but also where the mountains are close and the hollers go back so deep that cell phones don't work even now, let alone back then. There were 4 of us that night. Myself, Tyler, Josh, and Kyle. Tyler was our planner, always had been. The kid who organized our D&D campaigns, who mapped out our bike routes and convinced his mom to let him have a BB gun by presenting a 3-page safety protocol he had typed up himself. His parents were the type who went to bed at 9 and trusted him completely, which made his house the obvious choice for what we were planning. Josh was the daredevil, stocky kid, played football, had already been suspended twice that year for fighting. But he wasn't mean. He really was just reckless, the kind of 13-year-old who would jump off the train trestle into the river on a dare, and would steal his dad's truck and drive it around the back pasture. Nothing scared Josh. That's what we used to think. Kyle was the quiet one, skinny and asthmatic. He had to carry an inhaler everywhere. His dad left when he was 8, and his mom worked double shifts at a diner in Middlesboro. Kyle spent most of his time reading. Things like horror novels, survival guides, and anything he could get his hands on at the library. He knew more about local legends than anyone else in town, could tell you which hollers were supposed to be haunted, which old houses had stories attached to them. When Tyler first brought up the idea of camping in Barlow Hollow, it was Kyle who filled in the details we needed to know. The legend went like this. Back in 1952, a man named Vernon Barlow took his twin daughters camping in the hollow that bore his family name. The girls were 12 years old, identical, named Sarah and Mary. They went out one Friday afternoon, and by Sunday, only Vernon came back. He was covered in scratches, half out of his mind, rambling about how the girls had wandered off in the night and that he could not find them. The sheriff organized search parties. They combed those woods for 2 weeks and never found a trace of those girls. Not their sleeping bags, not their clothes, nothing. They were just gone. The town turned on Vernon fast. People started to say he had done something to them, that he had killed his own daughters and made up a story to get away with it. The whispering got louder and meaner. Someone had painted murderer on his house. His wife left and moved back to Virginia. 3 months after the camping trip, Vernon oak tree deep in the hollow. Allegedly, he had left a note that said, "I didn't hurt them, and I'm sorry I could not find them." After that, people avoided Barlow Hollow. Stories started circulating. Hikers would report hearing children singing in the woods at night. One hunter swore he saw 2 girls in old-fashioned dresses standing on a ridge, watching him. A couple camping there in the 70s packed up and left in the middle of the night, refusing to talk about what they'd seen. but warning people not to go out there. By the time we were teenagers, most people dismissed it as a local legend. But Kyle had done some research. He claimed to have found newspaper articles from 1952 at the library. The girls were real, he said. The disappearance was real. Vernon's suicide was very, very real. So what do you think happened? I asked him one day at lunch. Kyle shrugged and picked at his sandwich. I think someone or something in those woods took them, and whatever it was is still out there. Then Tyler got the idea. We should go, he said, grinning. Overnight camping trip, Halloween weekend. See if anything weird happens. Josh immediately agreed. Of course he did. The chance to prove he wasn't scared of some ghost story, well, he was in. I hesitated. I wasn't scared, but I wasn't exactly thrilled about spending a night in supposedly haunted woods either. Still, I didn't want to be the one who chickened out. What about you? Asked Kyle. You're the expert on this. Are you coming? Kyle had this look on his face. Reminded me of the face I would make if I was stumped on a math problem. Eventually, he nodded. Yeah, I'll come. But we need to do it right. Bring actual camping gear and not just sleeping in bags on the ground. And we need lots of batteries for the flashlights. We don't want to chance them going out. And no splitting up, no matter what. Deal, Tyler said. 2 days later, Kyle brought us to the Harlan Public Library after school. The building was old, built sometime in the 50s, I think. Had a musty smell that all old libraries seem to have. Mrs. Kemper, the librarian, knew Kyle by name. The kid was there at least twice a week. Research project, Kyle told her when she asked what we needed. She directed us to the microfilm room in the back, a cramped space with 2 machines that looked like they belonged in a museum. Kyle had already marked the dates he wanted, dates from the year 1952. The way he threaded the film through the machine was actually impressive. We crowded around the screen as he scrolled. There it was, on the screen, on the front page of a newspaper. It said, "Local girls missing after camping trip." Below it was a photo of 2 girls, identical, just like the legend said, standing in front of a house. They wore matching dresses and had their dark hair in braids. They looked like any other 12-year-olds from that era. Normal and happy. Kyle scrolled down. We read the article in silence. Father returns from camping trip without daughters. Massive search underway. Sheriff requests volunteers. Keep going, Tyler said. Kyle scrolled through the next weeks. More articles. Search continues. No sign of missing girls. Father claims they vanished from tent. Summon town skeptical of father's account. Then another. Father of missing girls questioned. This article was more pointed. Vernon Barlow had been taken in for questioning. Several townsfolk had come forward with concerns. No charges were actually filed, but the implication was clear. A month later, another newspaper. Search for Barlow girls called off. The official word was that the girls had likely died of exposure, and their bodies would be found sometime in spring. But the article included quotes from town residents. Half believed Vernon had done something. The other half thought he was being railroaded. About a month and a half after that, there was a small article, bottom of page 3. Local man found dead. Vernon Barlow, 41, hanging from tree in Barlow Hollow. Death rolled suicide. Note found at scene. Kyle zoomed in on the last line. The note, according to sheriff's deputies, contained an apology but no confession. Jesus, Josh muttered. There's more, Kyle said. He pulled out a folder from his backpack. Inside were photocopies of more articles, these from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Stories about Barlow Hollow. A hunter in 1967 reported hearing children crying. A couple camping there in 1973 left their campsite in the middle of the night and refused to go back for their gear. A teenage boy in 1981 was found walking on the highway at around 3 a.m., 5 miles from the hollow, barefoot and not making any sense. He was saying he'd seen 2 girls in old-fashioned dresses standing in his campsite and that they'd been singing. "Every few years," Kyle said, "something happens out there, always around Halloween, always involving kids or teenagers. Nobody's died as far as I can find, but people see things and they hear things." "Then why haven't they closed it off?" I asked. "It's not official land, just old Barlow family property that nobody claimed after Vernon died. The county doesn't maintain it, doesn't patrol it, and most people just avoid it." Tyler leaned back in his chair. "So what do you think really happened to those girls?" Kyle closed the folder. "I think something in those woods took them, like I said. Something is still out there, and I think it shows itself to people sometimes. Maybe it's looking for something. I don't know. Maybe..." He stopped. "Maybe what?" Josh asked. "Maybe it's looking for replacements." I felt a chill. "You know," I said slowly, "we don't have to go through with this. We could just forget about it." Tyler shook his head. "Oh, come on. It's just stories, like a fairy tale. People getting spooked in the dark, their imagination goes wild, and they reach for the closest possible explanation for it. An explanation like a local legend." "It could be that," Kyle agreed, but he didn't sound completely convinced. As we were leaving the library, Mrs. Kemper stopped us at the checkout desk. She had been reshelling old books nearby. Must have overheard some of our conversation. "You boys planning to go out to Barlow Hollow?" she asked. We exchanged glances, and Kyle nodded. "Just curious about the history." Mrs. Kemper set down her stack of books. She was maybe 50 years old at the time and had worked at the library for as long as I could remember. "My brother went out there in 1977 himself, when he was 17. He went with 3 friends. Thought they were going to have an adventure. In fact, it was sometime in the fall, too." She paused. Then, "They set up camp right where Vernon Barlow allegedly camped with his own daughters. My brother said they heard singing that night. Children's voices. They tried to ignore it, but then things started to happen. From what I heard, the tent unzipped itself, and they saw shapes moving in the trees. One of them swore he saw 2 little girls watching them from the woods." "What happened?" Josh asked. "They ran. Left all their gear and ran. My brother wouldn't talk about it for weeks. When he finally did, he said something was wrong about those girls, like they hadn't been alive for a long time." She looked at each of us in turn. "He made me promise never to go out there. Said there was something in those woods that wasn't right." "Did your brother ever go back?" Kyle asked. "No, he joined the army right after high school. Then after that, he moved to Georgia. I did ask him about it once, years later. He said he still had nightmares about those girls, about what they might have done if his group hadn't run." Mrs. Kemper picked up her books again. "I know you boys probably think it's just stories, that you're too smart to be scared by legends. But I'm telling you, you shouldn't go out there, especially not on Halloween. Whatever's in Barlow Hollow is not right. I trust my brother's word." We thanked her and left. Outside in the afternoon light, none of us spoke for a while, until Tyler said, "She was just trying to scare us. It's what old people do." "I don't know about that," I said. Kyle kept quiet the walk home. I noticed he kept his hand in his jacket pocket, where he'd put that folder of newspaper clippings, like he was holding on to proof of something he wished wasn't real. "Well, we're gonna find out," Tyler said. We spent the next couple of weeks planning. Tyler told his parents we were having a sleepover at his place to play video games all night, and they were fine with that. They would be heading to Lexington for the weekend to visit his grandmother anyway, so they'd be gone. His older sister, Melissa, would technically be in charge, but she was 19. She was mostly concerned with her boyfriend, so we knew she wouldn't check in on us. The plan was simple. Wait until Tyler's parents officially left around 3 p.m., gather our things, and hike into Barlow Hollow before dark. Then we'd set up camp and just hang out, see what happens. As I'm typing this, I can kind of feel the stupid feeling I get when I think back on this event. How absolutely foolish it was for some 13-year-old boys with no wilderness experience to go roughing it in the country at night, and hiding that fact from the family that could protect them or help them, all to chase some ghost story. If our parents had known about that, they would have killed us. But we felt like we were going to live forever. We were all teenage boys once, unless you're a girl reading or listening to this, but you know what I mean. It was October 30th, 1998, on a Friday afternoon. Tyler's parents pulled out of the driveway at about 3:07 p.m. We watched eagerly, or perhaps nervously, from his bedroom window until their Taurus disappeared around the bend. Melissa was already in the living room with her boyfriend Brad, some 19-year-old guy who was a dropout and worked at the local AutoZone. They barely glanced at us as we hauled our backpacks through the kitchen. "We're gonna set up the tent in the backyard," Tyler called out to her. "Whatever," Melissa said. She didn't even look away from the TV. "Don't be too loud." Perfect. I had my dad's old camping backpack with a sleeping bag, a flashlight, some granola bars that I'd taken from the pantry. Tyler brought a tent, a 4-person Coleman that had seen better days, but still, that was basically luxury for us kids out there. Josh brought a rope, a knife, and a baseball bat, because of course he did. Kyle had the most practical gear, a real camping stove, water bottles, a first aid kit, and a trail map of the area he'd gotten from the ranger station. The trailhead to Barlow Hollow was about 2 miles from Tyler's house, down some old road and up a dirt path that most people had forgotten existed. We rode our bikes as far as we could, then hid them in the brush near the trail marker. By then it was 4:30 p.m. when we started to hike. We had maybe 2 hours of good daylight left. The trail was narrow and overgrown. It wasn't maintained at all. The old road had long been reclaimed by forest. The undergrowth was thick, making it hard to see in any direction. "Are you sure we're going the right way?" Josh asked, about half an hour into our hike. Kyle checked his map. "Yeah, the hollow opens up about another mile ahead. There's a clearing near a creek. That's where Vernon took his daughters. That's where we should camp." Something about the way he said it made my skin feel weird. He didn't just say it's where Vernon camped. He said it was where Vernon took his daughters, like Kyle was being specific for a reason. The temperature dropped as we got deeper. Not unusual for October in these mountains, but noticeable. I zipped up my jacket. We passed an old foundation, just crumbling stones covered in moss. Kyle stopped to look at it. "I'm pretty sure that's the Barlow family homestead," he said. "It burned down in 1965 and nobody rebuilt it." "Great," Josh muttered. "Haunted woods with abandoned houses. This is like every horror movie ever." "It's not a movie," Kyle said quietly. "It's real." We kept walking. The woods changed as we went deeper into the hollow. The trees were older here, with massive trunks that had to be 100 years old or more. The underbrush thinned out, replaced by a carpet of dead leaves that crunched under our feet. It was quiet, too quiet. We heard only three things out there: our footsteps, our breathing, and the wind. Tyler stopped abruptly. You guys hear that? We became statues and listened. At first, I didn't hear a thing, but then I caught this distant sound. Almost like humming, or maybe singing, but so faint I couldn't be sure if it wasn't just the wind in the trees. Gotta be the wind, I said, trying to sound confident for the sake of my friends. Yeah, Josh agreed, but he'd gone quiet. Josh was never quiet. We found the clearing at about 6 p.m. It was exactly like Kyle had described, a flat area near a creek, sheltered by a ring of trees. There was even an old fire pit, just a circle of blackened stones. Someone had camped here before, maybe somewhat recently. This is it, Kyle said. This is where they camped. We got to work setting up. Tyler and I wrestled with the tent while Josh gathered firewood. Kyle got the camping stove working and started boiling water for instant ramen. By the time we had everything set up, the sun was below the ridgeline and the hollow was filling with shadows. We ate dinner sitting around the fire pit. Josh had gotten a fire going using some newspaper and matches. The ramen was terrible, but we were hungry enough not to care. For a while, it almost felt normal. Just four friends camping out, telling dumb jokes, trying to one-up each other with gross-out stories from school. But as it got darker, the mood shifted. The woods around us were completely black then. Our fire created a small bubble of light, maybe 15 feet across, and beyond that, there was nothing. Just pure darkness. You don't get that kind of pitch black in town, where there's always streetlights or porch lights or the glow from someone's TV in the window. Out here, when you looked past the fire, you couldn't see a thing. Just blackness. So, Josh said, poking at the fire with a stick, what actually happened to those girls? I mean, what do you think? Kyle looked up, his face somewhat lit by the fire. Nobody knows for sure. The search parties never found any bodies, and no evidence of an attack or a struggle. Nothing. What did Vernon say happened beyond just he lost them? I asked. He told the sheriff they were sleeping in the tent. He woke up at around 2 a.m. and both girls were simply gone. He searched all night, calling out their names. By the time the sun came up, he couldn't even figure out which direction to go. The woods had confused him. How do you get confused in woods like this? Tyler asked. They're not that big. You'd be surprised, Kyle said. People get disoriented in the forest all the time, especially at night. Your sense of direction breaks down, you think you're walking straight, but you're actually going in circles. So maybe he killed them, and he made up the story, Josh said. Kyle shook his head. I don't think so. Vernon's wife said he was devastated, lost 30 pounds after they disappeared. He couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, and the note he left before he hanged himself. People who fake that kind of thing don't usually admit failure. They either claim innocence outright or don't leave a note at all. But Vernon apologized for not finding his kids. To me, that sounds like a man who tried and failed. Then who took them? I asked. Kyle stared into the fire. Probably someone that lives in these woods, or used to. Or something else. We sat there for a while after that. The fire crackled and the creek gurgled somewhere in the darkness. And behind all of it, underneath it, I kept thinking I heard that sound again. The humming or singing, whatever it was. You guys hear that? Tyler asked. So it wasn't just me. We all listened. This time it was clearer. A high-pitched sound, almost musical, like children's voices singing a song I almost recognized. but couldn't quite place. "Wind," Josh said. "That's not wind," Kyle said. The singing got a little louder, still distant but distinct now. Two voices harmonizing. Young voices. "Screw this," Josh said and stood up. "I'm calling it. This is too weird. Let's pack up and just go home." "It's pitch black out there," Tyler said. "We'd get lost trying to hike back." "But you just said people don't get lost in woods like this." I was wrong. Kyle's right. If you go out there freaked out, without proper direction, acting all scared, you're gonna get lost. "Then we'll wait till morning." "What are we trying to get away from?" Kyle asked. "From singing? Maybe it's just other campers." "Out here, on Halloween weekend?" Josh shook his head. "Nobody camps out here." We did," I pointed out. "And the fire pit didn't look too old. Looked like someone had camped out here at least within the same week." That's when the singing stopped. The silence that followed matched the darkness around us, so utterly complete that it felt unreal. "It has to be our imagination," Tyler said. "We psyched ourselves out with ghost stories. We mistook the wind blowing through something in a weird way, and it made a sound. That's it." Nobody responded. We sat there and fed the fire and looked at each other on occasion. But damn, the woods felt different then. "I need to go to the bathroom," Josh announced, standing up. He grabbed his flashlight. "Don't go too far," Kyle said. "Stay where we can see your light." "It's just gonna be like 20 feet. Relax." We watched Josh's flashlight bob into the trees. He moved just beyond the edge of our firelight, and we could hear him unzipping his jeans and the sound of him going on leaves. But then his light went out. "Josh?" Tyler called. No reply. "Josh, that's not funny." The flashlight came back on, jerking wildly. We heard crashing through the undergrowth, and Josh came sprinting back into the clearing, his jeans barely zipped. His face was white. "What happened?" I asked. Josh bent over, hands on his knees. He was panting. "I saw..." He stopped. Then he shook his head. "Nothing. It was nothing." "Bull crap," Tyler said. "What was it?" "I said nothing." Josh's voice was sharp. He wouldn't look at us. "My flashlight just flickered for a second. It freaked me out, okay? I think the batteries are loose or something." But Josh was shaking. His hands were trembling. Kyle saw it too. "Josh, tell us what you saw." Josh finally admitted it. "Look, I'll say it, but don't call me crazy. And you asked. I thought I felt someone standing behind me, like breath on my neck. And when my light just flickered out, I turned around, and I swear, there was something right there. Right freaking there. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. But then I heard..." He stopped again. "Heard what?" "Like breathing. Someone with a really bad cold, though. It was wet and rattly. That's when my light came back on, and there was just nothing there. But I felt like someone was watching me." The fire crackled. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called. "We should go into the tent," I said. "Maybe being inside somewhere will help. Out here we're too exposed. We're just creeping each other out." "Yeah," Tyler agreed quickly. Too quickly for him. We doused most of the fire, leaving just enough to keep it smoldering, and crawled into the tent. It was cramped with all four of us, sleeping bags overlapping. Tyler had brought a battery-powered lantern, which he hung from the tent's ceiling hook. The light was weak, but better than nothing. "This is stupid," Josh muttered, zipping up his sleeping bag. "We're letting some weird sounds freak us out." "Better safe than sorry," Kyle said. He had his inhaler out and took a puff. His asthma always seemed to get worse whenever he was stressed out. I noticed Kyle hadn't taken off his shoes. We all had. Sleeping bags are warmer that way, and it's just more comfortable to not have shoes in your bag. But Kyle still had his boots on inside his sleeping bag. A small detail, by the way, something that just stuck with me, like he was ready to run. We lay there in our sleeping bags, not really sleeping, just listening. For a while, there was nothing. Normal forest sounds, sure, like the wind in the trees and the creek nearby, the occasional crack of a branch settling. I must have dozed off, because I jerked awake to Tyler grabbing my arm. "Don't move," he whispered. "Don't make a sound." My heart instantly lurched. "What?" "Just don't move." I stayed frozen. Tyler was next to me, rigid in his sleeping bag. He was staring straight up at the tent ceiling, and his eyes were huge. I followed what he was looking at. There was nothing there, just the dim lantern light and the tent fabric. "Tyler, what?" "She was just there," he whispered. "Right there. Inches from my face." I felt goosebumps on my skin. "Who was?" "One of the girls. Dead. She was hanging upside down from the tent ceiling, looking at me. Her face was right in front of mine, so close I could even smell her, like dirt and something rotten." "You were dreaming." "I wasn't dreaming. I was awake. I've been awake this whole time, man. I can't sleep." His voice shook. "I opened my eyes and she was just there, hovering over me and smiling. Half her face was normal and the other half was rotted off. I could see bone, and her eyes, they didn't reflect light at all. They were just black holes." Josh stirred on the other side of the tent. "What's going on?" "Nothing," Tyler said quickly. "Go back to sleep." But Josh was sitting up now. So was Kyle, both looking at Tyler. "What happened?" Kyle asked. Tyler took a shaky breath. "I think I saw one of the girls. Maybe I dreamed it after all. I don't know." "What'd she do?" Kyle inquired. "Nothing. She just looked at me for a long time. Her head was tilted and her mouth was open wide. It looked like her jaw had been broken. She was making this wet clicking sound every time she breathed. I wanted to scream or move or something, but I couldn't. All I could do was lie there and let her look at me." He paused. "But then Josh moved in his sleep, and when I blinked, she was gone." We all looked at each other in the dim lantern light. We'd all heard the singing earlier. We'd all felt that something was wrong in these woods. Do you know how long she was there?" I asked. Tyler checked his watch. I don't know. It felt like forever, honestly. But maybe 20 minutes, half an hour?" He was starting to look sick. The worst part was her smile. She looked so happy, so excited. "I was right, guys. We should have left. We should leave now," Josh said. "Right now. I don't care how dark it is." "And go where?" Kyle asked. "We're 2 miles from the trailhead and none of us know these woods at night. We're more likely to fall off a cliff or break an ankle than make it back safely." "So we just sit here and wait?" "We stay together," Kyle said. "We keep the lantern on, and at first light we pack up and leave when it's safe." That made sense to me, but that also meant hours of sitting in this tent, waiting, knowing something was out there. "Let's do shifts," Tyler suggested. "Two awake, two asleep. That way, someone's always watching, and someone's always keeping an eye on the other person, in case they try to doze off." We agreed. Josh and I took the first shift while Tyler and Kyle tried to sleep. I checked my watch. It was 11:47 p.m., so we would switch at 1:30 a.m. The next hour and a half or so crawled by. Josh and I sat back to back in the center of that tent, watching in opposite directions. The lantern made our shadows look weird, stretched out and mutated. Every sound outside made us jump. I heard something small scurry through the leaves, and at another point, I heard a wet dragging sound, moving past the tent about 30 feet away. But it didn't come closer than that. Then 1:30 a.m. arrived. We woke up Tyler and Kyle. My turn to try to sleep. I honestly didn't think I could sleep, not after being startled awake by Tyler's visions, I guess. But exhaustion pulled me under. I had confused, fragmented dreams about running through the woods or looking for someone and someone calling my name. Sometime later, I woke up to Kyle shaking me. "Get up," he whispered urgently. "Tyler's gone." I basically jumped up. Kyle and Josh were both awake, and Tyler's sleeping bag was empty. The tent flap had been unzipped. "What do you mean gone? The two of you were supposed to be awake." "I don't know, he was there 5 minutes ago," Kyle said. "I swear, I was watching the tent flap and Josh was watching the back. Neither of us saw him leave, but he's gone." "Tyler!" Josh called, not bothering to whisper anymore. "Tyler!" No response. We scrambled out of the tent. The fire had died down to just ashes. Our clearing was lit only by weak moonlight filtering through the trees. I grabbed a flashlight and looked over the area. "Tyler!" I shouted. Then we heard something I'll never forget. It was this strangled, choking sound from somewhere in the woods, up the slope maybe 50 yards away. We ran toward the sound, panic flooding my veins. I could hear Kyle wheezing behind me, struggling to keep up. There! Josh yelled. My flashlight found him. There was Tyler, hanging from a tree. A vine had been wrapped around his neck like a noose, and his feet were dangling 2 feet off the ground. His face was turning purple, eyes bulging out of his head. His hands clawed desperately at the vine, but it was too tight. Tyler! I screamed. Josh got there first. He was tall enough that he could grab Tyler's legs and lift him, creating some slack in the vine. I fumbled with my knife and started to saw at the thing. It was thick and tough, but the blade was just sharp enough. Kyle joined me, both of us cutting frantically. The vine snapped. Tyler and Josh crashed to the ground in a heap. Tyler gasped, sucking in air. His hands went to his throat, feeling the deep groove the vine left on him. "You're okay," Josh said. "You're okay, man, just breathe." We knelt around him while he coughed and gasped. It took maybe 2 minutes before he could talk. "What happened?" I asked. "How did you get out here?" Tyler shook his head. His voice was raspy. "I don't know. I don't remember leaving the tent. I was just sitting there, keeping watch. I heard someone call my name from outside. It sounded like Josh, but he was next to me. Looked like he had dozed off, and Kyle was looking in the opposite direction. I was half asleep. I just went outside, and the moment I did, I wasn't in the clearing anymore. I was just in the middle of the woods, and I felt something around my neck. The vine was already wrapped around my throat. I tried to pull it off, but it tightened, and it lifted me up." He looked at us, his eyes wide with terror. "It lifted me up on its own. There was no one there, no one I could see. The vine just pulled me up like a rope over a pulley." "That's impossible," Josh said. "I know what I felt. That thing was alive or something. You two were supposed to keep an eye on him. On us, I said. Josh looked angry and guilty at the same time, but didn't say anything. But Kyle did retort. Look, we're all tired. It makes sense that we didn't see him slip out. There's nothing we can do now. It's over. I sighed. He was right. Even so, one of us was nearly killed. And by what? By who? You expect me to believe that one of my friends just sleepwalked outside in the middle of the woods, tied a perfect noose around his neck, and tried to hang himself? Kyle looked around nervously. We need to go. Now. I don't care if it's dark anymore. We need to get out of here. All right, I said. Let's do it. We started back toward the clearing. Tyler leaned on Josh, one hand still on his throat. We moved slowly, flashlights scanning ahead. But immediately, something was terribly wrong. We had run uphill to find Tyler. I remember that so clearly. We should have been going downhill back to camp, but the ground stayed level. When we'd been running, it had taken about 2 minutes. But we walked for over 5 and still had not found the clearing. Oh man, are we going the right way? Josh asked. Kyle checked his compass, a gift from his grandfather. He stared at it, shook it, stared again. That's not right. What? The needle. It's bouncing all over the place. It won't settle on one direction. We all looked at it. Sure enough, the compass needle was bouncing from one side to the other, like it couldn't decide on true north. Do compasses just break like that? Tyler rasped. It's not broken, Kyle said quietly. It's like there's a big magnet nearby interfering with it. Then which way do we go? I asked. Nobody knew. We picked a direction and walked. After 10 minutes, we found ourselves in a small clearing. It looked familiar. It was our camp, our tent, our dead fire, our scattered gear. But the direction we had been going, that wasn't back to camp. How we got back here, I have no idea. Nothing's making sense, guys, Josh said. What if this, Kyle began. What if this is what happened to Vernon Barlow? He said the woods confused him, made him walk in circles. Maybe the woods didn't want him to find his daughters. The woods don't just take people, Kyle, Tyler said. I know that, but I'm sure you all agree it feels like someone or something doesn't want us to leave. A sound cut through the darkness. That singing again. But this time it was much closer, right on the edge of our clearing. 2 voices harmonizing, singing something that might have been a lullaby once, but not anymore. In a matter of moments, we saw them. 2 small figures standing at the tree line, small enough to be children. They were swaying slightly, like they were dancing to their own music. Oh God, Josh whispered. Then the singing stopped. Let's just get in the tent, I said. I know we want to leave, we all want to go back home, but we're just gonna get lost out here. That much is obvious. The others nodded. I know we sounded wishy-washy, but you have to understand, by that point, we were too scared to do much of anything. We lay inside the tent, back in our sleeping bags, not sleeping. Nobody keeping watch. We just lay there, listening. My watch said 2:50 a.m. It would only be about 3 more hours until dawn. We just had to make it 3 more hours. Eventually, I did doze off, but I woke up suddenly once again with that disoriented feeling you get when you don't know what time it is or what woke you up. The lantern was still on, but dimmer now. The batteries were dying. I could see Tyler on my left, mouth open, snoring quietly. I was relieved to see him doing okay enough to sleep. Josh was on my right, facing away from me. But Kyle was sitting up. He was staring at the tent wall. "Kyle," I whispered. He didn't say anything, but he kept staring. I sat up, my sleeping bag rustling. "Kyle, you okay?" Slowly he turned to look at me, and when I saw his face, he looked sick, his eyes wide and skin glistening with sweat and pale. "Do you hear it?" he whispered. I listened. At first, there was nothing, but then I heard it. That wet, dragging sound I'd heard before, closer now, like something being pulled through mud. It was moving around the outside of our tent, slowly. "What is that?" I breathed. Kyle held up a finger to his lips. I nodded. The dragging sound moved from the side of the tent to the front. Then it stopped. For a long moment, we heard nothing else, until breathing. Heavy, wet breathing, with a sort of rattling or clicking sound at the back of the throat. It was right outside the tent flap. Something pressed against the tent wall, making this indentation in the fabric. It looked like someone's hand, but emaciated, every single bit of fat and excess skin removed. Kyle grabbed my arm, gripping me tight. He held onto his inhaler in his other hand. Then we watched the tent zipper beginning to move. Not quickly. It was slow, one tooth at a time. Someone was unzipping our tent from the outside. I wanted to scream, to wake up Tyler and Josh, to run, but I couldn't move, and I could barely even breathe. I watched that zipper slide down, inch by inch, and then the tent flap opened. For a moment, there was nothing but darkness, but then 2 small hands reached through the opening, the hands of a child. But the skin was mottled and gray and black, like something that had been in water for too long. The fingernails were cracked and broken, and a smell came through. Rot and earth, like a blender filled with blended up earthworms and dirt, but left for weeks. Kyle made a small sound in his throat. The hand spread the tent flap wider. That was when I saw her face. A little girl, maybe 12 years old. She might have been pretty once, but she wasn't anymore. Half her face was normal, smooth skin and dark eyes. The other half was decayed, skin pulling back to show bone underneath. Her hair was matted and full of leaves, and she was smiling. Behind her, I saw the other one. An identical face, with almost identical rot, except that one's eyes had become black pits. Her head tilted sideways too far, vertebrae cracking. Her neck made a wet sliding sound, like flesh moving over exposed bone, and she kept smiling. Kyle's breathing was getting faster. He was slowly bringing the inhaler to his mouth, trying to use it, but he was shaking too hard. All at once, the first girl tried to crawl into the tent. I screamed. Tyler and Josh jumped awake. "What the hell?" Tyler started. Get out! Run! I screamed. I didn't go towards the tent opening. I scrambled backward, tripping over our things. Tyler saw the girl, and his eyes went huge. He froze up, and I heard him saying, "Holy crap, holy crap." We exploded out of that tent, ripping a hole through the back. Cold air hit my face, and I stumbled back into the clearing. Josh was right behind me. Tyler came out last, saying, "Where's Kyle?" I looked back at the tent. Kyle was still inside. The tent was shaking, thrashing like animals fighting in there. Kyle! Tyler screamed. The thrashing stopped. For a moment, nothing happened. But seconds later, Kyle came crawling out of the tent, breathing so hard, too hard, each breath a wheeze.
"My inhaler," he gasped. "I can't find it."
I looked at our tent, or what remained of it. It was now a flat pile of nylon and a mixed bundle of rods, but there were no shapes underneath anymore. The girls we had seen, the one that had crawled into the tent, they were gone. I swallowed hard and crawled under the fabric. I found the opening and began to dig around until I felt Kyle's inhaler. I came back out and handed it to him. "Here."
"Thank you,"
he said, and he inhaled. "We need to go now," Josh demanded. "Which way do we go, Josh?" I asked. "We tried leaving once before. We tried coming back before. Nothing makes sense out here. No matter what we do, it's a gamble." It was still completely dark. I couldn't see the trail. There was no way we could tell what direction we'd come from to make it out of these woods.
"The creek,"
Kyle wheezed.
"Follow the creek downstream. It leads back to the road."
That sounded like a good idea. So we ran. I don't remember much of the next few minutes. I was focused on not tripping under my own feet, trying to ignore my burning lungs, hoping that we weren't being followed, even though I was sure we were. That singing continued. Not constant. It was intermittent, but it was there, from one direction or another, reminding us that they were out there, those girls. At one point, Kyle told us not to listen to it, to just keep going. I honestly had no idea where we were going, no sense of direction, just away. We had to get away. Suddenly, "There!" Tyler pointed. Through the trees, there was a flashlight beam moving.
"Help!"
Josh screamed. The light changed direction, coming towards us now. A voice called out, "Who's out here?" Soon, a man stood before us holding a flashlight and a hunting rifle. He looked to be in his 60s, wearing a camouflage jacket. Behind him was a truck, parked on what looked like an old logging road. "Please," Tyler gasped. "Something's been chasing us, in the woods." The man lifted his flashlight and swept it over the trees. "Where?" We all turned to look. Nothing. Just dark forest. No movement, no wet dragging sounds, no girls, no singing.
"There was something there," Josh said. "I swear to God something was following us."
The man looked us over real good. 4 terrified teenagers covered in scratches, no camping gear except for what we were wearing. "You boys been camping out here? In Barlow Hollow?" We nodded. He sighed. "Damn fools, don't you know better than to camp here? Especially this time of year?" We didn't say anything, but the man didn't need an answer. He told us, "Just get in the truck. I'll drive you back to town." We did what he said. On the ride there, we discovered the man's name was Ray. We told him instead of town, he could drop us off at Tyler's place. He regaled us with stories about hunting. Nothing scary. I think he read the room. By the time we made it back to Tyler's place, it was like 4:30 a.m. Surprisingly, the lights were on inside. Melissa and Brad were still up, waiting on the porch. When Melissa saw us, she said, "You guys look like crap. Where have you been?" I could tell Tyler was startled to see that his sister cared and had paid enough attention to notice he was gone. I fell in the creek. We got turned around. Maybe got lost a little." "Where's your camping stuff?" It's still out in the woods. I'll go get it tomorrow. Don't tell Mom or Dad." Melissa rolled her eyes but didn't press us. We trudged upstairs to Tyler's room and collapsed on the floor. Way better than some sleeping bags in the woods. "Did that really just happen?" Tyler asked. "Did we eat some bad food?" And for the first time in several hours, I laughed. We had all passed out from fear and exhaustion, and the next thing we knew, light was streaming through the window. It was morning. I sat up slowly. every muscle in my body aching and screaming. Tyler was still asleep on his bed, snoring. Josh was curled up on the floor near the door. I looked around. My heart skipped a beat. "Where's Kyle?" I asked. Josh stirred awake, rubbing his eyes. "What? Kyle! Where is Kyle?" We searched the room, the hallway, the bathroom. Kyle wasn't here. "Just calm down, guys. He probably went home," Tyler said. But my gut twisted. That wrong feeling I felt the entire night before came back. So we decided to call Kyle's house. We used Tyler's landline. It rang 4 times, and then his mom picked up. "Hello?" she said. "Hi, this is Ryan. Is Kyle home?" She answered. "Kyle? Honey, Kyle's in bed. He's been asleep since last night. Is everything okay?" I didn't expect to hear that. My first assumption was that Kyle had lied to his parents about the sleepover for some reason and had snuck back before he got caught. But that wasn't like Kyle. Kyle was a goody two-shoes, so to speak. Betraying his mother or father's trust was not like him. And what reason would he have to lie about the sleepover? I mean, Tyler was the one risking the punishment. He's there at your house?" "Yes, he's been home all night. He had a really bad asthma attack yesterday evening, so I told him he couldn't go to Tyler's sleepover. He was pretty upset about missing it, but he needed to rest." I froze up for a second. She was certain he had been there all night, but that defied everything I knew. "Ryan, are you there?" "Yeah, sorry. Can I talk to him?" "Sorry, he's still sleeping. It was a rough night.
I have
Can you call back
stolen.
later or come over sometime?"
Listen,
"Sure.
do not.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye." I hung up. Tyler and Josh stared at me. "What'd she say?" "She says Kyle's been home all night. Said he had an asthma attack yesterday and couldn't come out." No. Someone's messing with us," Josh said. "He was with us all night. We all saw him and talked to him and hung out." "I know. Why would he lie about it?" Tyler asked. I shrugged my shoulders. Was he lying? Was his mom lying? What was going on? We all nearly jumped out of our skins when the phone rang. Tyler picked it up. Josh and I waited, listening to Tyler go, "Yeah, cool, okay, see ya," and then hung up after a few minutes. He looked at us wide-eyed. "That was Kyle," Tyler said. "Well, what'd he say?" "Well, he begged his mom to be able to call us back after he knew that we called. But he told me he'd been home all night." Josh rubbed his head. "Oh, come on. Someone's messing with us. It's gotta be Kyle." I looked at him. "Yeah, could be, but why? Kyle has never pranked us before. He's not really like that." We decided we would grill him on it come Monday. We would see each other again at school and take the rest of the weekend to just relax, try to forget what happened. Enough time to convince ourselves it was just a dream, or delirium caused by 4 friends pressuring each other into being scared. Or was it 3 friends? Come Monday at school, Kyle didn't show up. We went the whole school day, wondering what happened to Kyle. His asthma must have been pretty bad, maybe some sort of extended episode from the weekend. We'd have to get our answers later, we thought. That evening after school, I tried to call his house, but nobody would answer. I called Tyler and Josh separately, and both of them had been trying to get a hold of Kyle or his parents, but they got no response either. I learned the next evening that Kyle had died. Apparently, the night of the very day we called him, he just didn't wake up. Kyle passed away in his sleep, some sort of issue where he just stopped breathing. His parents were a wreck, and I couldn't blame them. Josh, Tyler, and I were never the same either. We weren't sure how to handle death in our lives, let alone the death of someone we loved and were so close to. We had just talked to him, really, and he sounded normal. He sounded healthy, but he was gone before we ever got to ask him about anything. The next time we saw Kyle again was in a casket. After that, the three of us made it a regular thing to go to his grave. We hung out, talking to him like he was still there, coping the way young teenagers would try to do. But what started as a weekly thing soon became monthly, then every other month, every other year, and life went on without Kyle. This story sounds crazy, and I can't tell you exactly what happened that night, but I will tell you that we never got answers. The three of us never figured out if Kyle had actually joined us, or if he hadn't. Was it the real Kyle out there, or was it someone else? Or was Kyle lying in his last moments? If so, why would someone who had never done that to us before do that on his dying day? I just don't know. But this is my story, and I can't thank you enough for reading or listening to it. That's how the story ends. I'll leave it to you, as usual, to decide whether to believe or disbelieve. The forests of Appalachia overflow with mystery and even terror. Be careful where you tread. This story, while recording it, was one of the rare few where certain moments gave me chills, had me turning around in my computer chair to make sure I was still alone in my office. It's not often that a story comes my way quite like this one. Thank you for listening. This has been Unexplained Encounters. I'm Darkness Prevails. You can find this podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Before I go, I want to announce something exciting. I've teamed